Welcome to Soul Wellness with Kristen, where we get into the nitty-gritty of various holistic modalities and explore exactly how they help you heal. I'm your host, Kristen, and I invite you to join me on this enlightening expedition where we explore the connection between mind, body, and spirit. In each episode, we'll talk in depth with holistic providers, medical professionals, therapists, and healers. Our goal is to empower you with knowledge, inspire you with stories of resilience, and provide practical tools that you can integrate into your daily life. So, find a comfortable space and join us as we explore the multifaceted world of holistic wellness. Get ready to learn how to improve every aspect of your life and simply feel good. The adventure begins now. Thank you for joining us today. I have David Harris with me, and he is a channeler, Akashic healer, and transformational architect. So welcome, David.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I just recently had a session with you, and so I'm really glad to connect with you in person.
I'm glad to do this. This is fun.
It's going to be awesome. So with the whole channeling and intuitive work that you do, when did that start? Tell me about your childhood. Did you know something was different about yourself?
I always knew something was different, but things like being intuitive and psychic were not real supported in the house I grew up in, although my parents were both extremely religious in ways that competed against each other.
Oh, no.
And they were into, spirit in a sense, but it had to have all these rules and it had to have all this fear. And my dad had this obsession that I think he still has of being afraid of what he thinks of as dark spirits.
Oh, wow.
Which is really a way of him projecting his own unresolved fears externally. So I grew up with a lot of religion. I was extremely intuitive, but for me, I think it was more of a survival skill because I grew up in a house that was abusive. So you're always trying to feel out the environment that you're in. And I did feel different. I can look back on it now and realize I felt very different. Some of my interests were different. I did the normal stuff of, I grew up going to Catholic school, did normal, good student. It was kind of like a standing demand in my house. You have to be a good student or you can't be here kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I did all the extracurricular stuff. Like I played all the different sports and did a lot of outdoor stuff, like in the Boy Scouts. And I grew up on the Gulf Coast where you're around a lot of water, so I did a lot of aquatic stuff too. Mm-hmm. But I was always into understanding how to break down the mystery of what this experience is. I always wanted to try to figure out how to understand this place and the behind the scenes of how everything worked and why people did things.
Yeah.
I had all kinds of questions when I was younger that I don't think were a lot of my peers had. I would look at adults that would work like these full-time jobs for like corporations and stuff and see how much time adults spent working, and I thought as a kid that was pretty crazy.
Right. Look at how much of your life you're doing that, and you don't seem happy either. Right.
Yeah. It didn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. Like I didn't like being a kid because I felt trapped. Then I looked at adults and I looked at what they were doing as adults. And I was like, well, they become adults to go inside of a prison system of like being trapped in this job that I can tell they don't even like. And it's like, there was some part of me that was like, this doesn't make any sense.
Wow.
This really doesn't make any sense. And, so I felt from an early age that I was here to do something, like I had some kind of mission, but I didn't know what it was. And it would involve me having to discover myself, but along the way trying everything. I was always a kid that wanted to absorb information, whatever it was. I wanted to know how anything and everything worked, whatever it might be, whether it be something mechanical, whether it be space, which I was very interested in when I was young, or the dynamics of any kind of human situation, the dynamics of nature. Like I was trying to get to the bottom of something.
Right. That curiosity, though, has led you here, and now you're helping all kinds of people, because I feel like when you do channel, you are so quick to get into that space where you are connected. When I've talked to other channelers or intuitives, it's almost like they have to kind of do a little something to get themselves ready, but you're there. you're ready to go.
It probably wasn't that way at first.
Okay.
That took a bit, but I've been on quite an intense personal journey that eventually led to that. I never expected that I would be doing this.
Really?
Ever. I never expected that. When I was younger, I hadn't heard of the concept of channeling, or at least put into that terminology. And there were, my dad would think of people as like prophets, which to me is a little bit funny, because it's a lot of times that's essentially channeling.
Yeah.
And, getting to the point of doing this kind of channeling was not something I saw coming at all. It took me a long time to realize I had been channeling for years.
Wow. So how are you with everyday life when you've got this connection now and you're channeling and you're doing it so easily and so smoothly? Are you sensitive to noise and crowds and sounds and...
Extremely.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm extremely sensitive to the energy of environments. I mean, I'm pretty actively involved in the world,
Right.
But I'm really, really sensitive to energy, and I always have been. And it took a lot of healing, working through my own trauma to get to the point where I could really start to interpret the energy more clearly and recognize what was mine and what wasn't.
Right.
And then to recognize that I had been navigating my world in that way for a long time. Like, I have real sensitive hearing, real sensitive energetically. I've always had really sensitive hearing, and at a certain point I started to realize that I was hearing sounds and frequencies that most people don't hear, because I would be in an environment or out at a restaurant and be like, how can you deal with that music, or how can you deal with that noise? Like, it would be overwhelming to me. People are like, it's fine. I mean, like, how do you do this?
Right. Wow, that's interesting. So do you find that you need a lot of quiet time in a day?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And, I spend plenty of time around people. If I'm in a restaurant or a place with a lot of people, I'll bring these really small earplugs that I can still hear quite well, but it dampens it a little bit, and that makes it where I can handle it. But yes, I do. I need a certain amount of space.
Yes.
I need that recharge time where I'm just by myself.
Yeah.
And I like to keep my own home environment pretty quiet.
Yeah, I can totally relate. That's why I'm asking you. I'm like, I'm very much the same way. I have to have a certain amount of quiet in my day to just recharge and, I guess, clear. I don't know what it is. It's almost clearing off whatever I've attracted and been exposed to through the day.
To clear and kind of make sense of the energy you've been around. For me, that's the case.
So when you work with someone, I was curious about this, does their openness affect anything at all? Does it matter?
It does matter. So the more open someone is, the deeper that, I don't want to say the deeper we can go, the deeper that they're going to be able to receive.
Okay.
Because the more open someone is, then it's kind of like there's more of an invitation to get into what's there.
Okay.
To bring up what's there.
And when you are channeling, you're also speaking in a light language. And if no one has heard of light language or heard someone speak in light language, it doesn't make sense to you verbally. You won't understand, but your soul understands.
Right. So what we term light language, or the language of light, it's sound, light, and geometry that comes out in verbalization. It's not always verbal. It can be like hand movements. It can be vocal toning. It can be in written form and symbols. But what I'm doing is primarily, it's a lot of different sounds, and it can't be misinterpreted because it bypasses the language centers of the brain.
Okay.
So it's basically, it's soul level communication. If you as a non-physical being, as a spirit, had a language, a way of putting into some kind of verbalization things that couldn't be verbalized with finite human language that has a lot of limitations, can be misinterpreted, that would be what light language is. So when you're receiving it, you're not receiving it really through your brain first and foremost. You're receiving it through your chakra system, and it contains sometimes like a lot of detailed information that'll kind of trickle into your system. It can contain like a lot of really complex stuff, and it contains healing frequencies, and it also can help to activate and open up parts of you that might be dormant or coming online. And when it's coming through me, like I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth. And it's not actually working with my brain in a sense. Like it's, when it's coming through me, it's actually bypassing the language centers of the brain when it's coming through.
Do you remember what you've said? When you have a session with somebody, do you even remember what you've said, or it's just so automatic you're not really sure what you've even said?
I'm aware when I'm in the session, and I remember quite a bit. I won't remember everything. I won't remember details. And sometimes if I've had a session with somebody months later, I may not remember too many things.
Yeah.
But in a lot of cases, I do have quite a bit of memory of it. But I listen to recordings of things, and the experience listening to recording is completely different.
Wow.
It's completely different because it's what I channel is a lot of very detailed information that comes through, and I'm seeing sometimes images or getting like key phrases. So like the experience of being in it, it's just is very different than hearing it.
Yeah. That's so fascinating. So does anything happen physically? Do you have chills? Do you get warm? Does anything happen like that?
Yeah, a lot happens physically. So it's a really big energy that comes in, and it feels really good in the body. But I mean, I feel very, very different when I'm channeling. So there's a process when I'm kind of going into it where I can feel it all coming in, and what I'm channeling is a big collective that involves a lot of different beings and groups working together. So different aspects of it kind of enter the vessel in a different way, and it all happens fairly quick. But yeah, the body feels really different. So I get some healing energy. I typically feel pretty energized after, in most cases.
So not depleted, which is good.
Right, because I'm not pulling from my own energy.
Okay.
So I'm receiving it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So you have said, well, at least after my session with you said, listen to this again. Go back and listen to this recording again. Is it important to do that multiple times? Are you receiving more and more each time you listen to it? It's
not essential to listen to it again, but it can be really, really helpful.
Okay.
Because you're getting it all the first time around. It can help with integration. It can help with layers to listen to it later. So, I've been on the receiving end of this with another channeler that I've worked with quite a bit, Dina Baker, who's I've been her client.
Okay.
And what I found is listening to a session maybe a day or two after, and then in some cases listening to it again like a week later. It's very different.
Yeah.
And I'll catch the message in a different way.
Yeah.
And it'll hit on a layer that maybe was there the first time, but I had something had been cleared during the session, and then I had integrated part of it, and then later hearing it again would drive something home in a different way. And I found it's also helpful to actually see myself on the screen in the replay to kind of like actually experience my own reactions. It's like, wow, that was intense. Like it felt really intense when it was happening, but like this, like the level of intensity, you can kind of really see that.
I felt that when I had a session with you, and you do most of your sessions virtually. Your website is set up so beautifully where it's very easy to book a session with you. Everything is automated. It's so easy. You get lots of reminders. Your session's coming. I loved that.
Oh, good.
But I did notice that too when we were having our session virtually. I could see the intensity in you, and just like, wow, that was intense what just came through him. and you even said, whew, that was a lot.
That's that happens.
Yeah.
Like most of the sessions, for whatever reason, people that come to me and what's going on tends to be something really intense.
Yeah, well, that's what I really want to talk about. I really want this podcast to be touching people in a way that they can say, oh my gosh, I want to work with him because I think he can help me with ... I feel like so many people can really receive the help and the healing that they need from you, because a person can ask you anything, correct?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what phase or what part of life. It can be about grief, about a betrayal, about narcissistic abuse. It could be someone that has an addiction that can't understand why they can't kick it. Give me some examples of people that you've worked with where you know that you helped.
That's an interesting question, because when I'm channeling in a session like you experienced, what comes through is it gets into the layers of why something is happening, and the layers of why something is happening, or you're faced with something in the here and now, never happen in a vacuum. They don't have. It's not just what's happening in this life that's informing it. It could be ancestral stuff that you walked into, that you inherited because you were born into a family tree. That it may have some really heavy stuff generations back that it's still part of your experience. It's informing your emotional experience. It's informing some of your own tendencies. And then there's, we're all a soul that lives forever. And we have all these different experiences, other lifetimes. And that can inform what's happening. And I tend to get quite a lot of that, of people that have issues related to other lifetimes where there was a specific trauma, and whatever the issue you may be dealing with here and now in this life, whether it be like grief, or you've been through abuse, or you've been betrayed, or name a bunch of other issues, you've had a real experience here in this life that is the cause of that. But you might feel that like something else deeper is going on, like you're super triggered by it, and it doesn't make sense. That's because it's also kind of, it's like the same frequency, it's the same flavor of ice cream as these other experiences that you've had that were unhealed, and so they kind of all come up at once. And some of this, like the first, I did this without charging for a while, and I got to a point where I was kind of encouraged, like you probably should start charging. And the first paid client session I ever did, it got into, she had some heavy sexual trauma, like deep in her past, and it was a lot of that stuff, and it tied into past lives and ancestral stuff. And that was just like the first session, and I was somehow like, I wasn't even like shocked that I had attracted that kind of heavy stuff to work through. And this is someone that is a friend to today, and she's worked with me a good bit, and she was ready to get into that. And there was a whole lot of clearing. I've dealt with things where people that really had been doing their own inner work, but had something else affecting them, and it might be some kind of a negative attachment that's come up, where there are negative attachments to be cleared out that they weren't aware of. And I've dealt with some stuff that's quite unique, where people maybe moved from one lifetime where there was a traumatic death to the next lifetime, to this lifetime, without integrating the experience in between. So it's like they were working through a trauma of the way another lifetime played out and ended, and the dynamics around that, while in this life, and it created all kinds of confusion. And once they kind of understood that, it helped untangle something. But then integrating that was not an easy experience.
Right.
I have worked with a lot of people that have come from religious trauma, abuse, and have experienced like betrayals and big losses, and which are all things that I've experienced and had to work through in my life. So it's kind of like I've learned that you sort of attract what you've dealt with and worked through. And in my life, I've done some really intense healing work on myself. And I think that just kind of, I tend to like attract that.
Yeah, and it pulls the whole experience together, because you are compassionate and you're empathetic. You know what these feelings feel like as a human.
Right.
We can't get away from this human experience. It's hard. We all, a lot of us mostly know that we are spiritual beings, and we can look at something from a spiritual perspective and possibly understand it. But my Lord, we're in these shoes on this planet, and it's difficult. Everybody's going through something of some kind.
Yeah, everybody's going through something, and what's causing that, or what's making your own experience feel more intense, maybe things that aren't your fault at all.
Right.
There's collective planetary energies that have been shifting in a big way, and that affects things. That can bring a lot of things into the light that were under the surface.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I have experienced is, especially for a lot of getting into channeling, it's you're really bringing in a lot of high frequency, high vibrational energy into you. And so that means that anything that is not of that, anything unhealed, is going to be like kicked up to the surface. Oof. It's like a torpedo of light that kicks everything up to the surface, and then you got to work through it. So it's,
oh boy,
getting into that for me meant working through a lot of trauma.
Yeah, but you're so brave to do it. A lot of people will choose alcohol or drugs to just go numb and not work on it. So look what you've done. You've worked on it, and now you're in this beautiful position to help other people. It's amazing. It's really amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing. I would imagine that anybody that feels really stuck in their life, even if they're not dealing with like a certain instance or trauma, but just maybe they feel just stuck, like they're not really sure which way to go, or career-wise would be a good match for you to work with as well.
Yeah, people looking for their purpose.
Yes.
And because that's a really difficult one to figure out as a human, because humans create systems that we're supposed to fit ourselves into, and those systems may not really give you room to be you.
Yeah.
Or those systems may not benefit you. They may be, benefiting other people to have you work in the system and pad their pockets or whatever.
Exactly.
So I think that part of, going back to when I was a kid, and I would look at the world and think, the way this place operates is insane. It doesn't make any sense. I love
that, but I bet if you were to say that to your parents, they'd be like, "What in the world? What are you talking about?"
Right? Yeah.
We're going to live by these rules right here.
Right. So they were always looking for the rule set that makes them quote feel safe while they wouldn't deal with their own trauma.
Yeah.
And then become very, very high functioning, educated people that were extraordinarily dysfunctional.
Oh man.
So that definitely pushed me to want to do the work. Because there was a point when I was a teenager even, and I was like, I'm not going to be like that. And, left the house, went through quite a lot. And into my 20s, there was a point of like, I think I really need to do some serious work, because I was hurting. I'd been through a lot of trauma, and some traumatic stuff happened in my late 20s that kind of led me down a road of getting help. But I looked at my parents as examples of like, they didn't work through any of their childhood stuff. They didn't work through their own traumas, like, at all.
Yeah.
And so they just keep playing it out again and again and again. And I'm not going to live that pattern.
Yeah.
I'm not going to live that pattern. It was strange because my mother, even though she was quite abusive, she would say stuff to me when I was young, like, break this cycle. Like I was here to break this cycle.
Wow.
But she would kind of put that over on my dad, like break his cycle, not realizing that it was like
hers.
She's
hers too.
Yeah, she has a personality disorder, and
she probably thought she was the absolute perfect mother and all of that.
There's a lot of projection.
Yeah,
right?
there was no cycle to break with her.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of denial, a lot of narcissism. It's like I looked at the total patterns, like, I knew that I had to do, like, almost like go back to the beginning and start it over.
Yeah.
So that started in my late 20s and really has been like almost a 2-decade process.
Wow.
Of that. So there was some part of me that was like super determined to do that. And I always had this experience of other and getting into automatic writing almost 2 decades ago, and not realizing I was channeling and gravitating towards things like meditation and going outside the box of religion, like trying to break down, well, where does this really come from? And what's the truth if I'm willing to question everything, like everything, nothing's out of bounds, and kind of get to my core. And there was a point where all of a sudden I started to develop awareness of what I was apart from this life. And that when that started to open up, it was like the floodgates opened, like completely opened.
Yeah.
And that really came in full force when I left a marriage, got divorced, and it was like the first week I was in my own space in an apartment. all this information starts coming in. And I kind of put myself in a cave where I was working my job and I didn't know what else to do. I didn't have really much in the way of local family. Didn't feel like family was a great support system. And my closest friends didn't live close by. So that I was really on an island.
Yeah.
So I just went into a cave and I did a lot of meditation, not because I was trying to be like a monk or anything, because I literally didn't know what else to do.
Right.
I knew that I had to connect with my purpose, whatever it was, and I felt this need to activate myself, but I didn't know what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what that meant, and I just was meditating more than I had been, and I just made it into like an every morning, like a long, like hour-long thing, sometimes longer, that I get up early and do it every day, and that was just because that was the only tool I knew.
Yeah.
I didn't trust other tools.
Yeah.
And what started to happen very, very quickly is that experience of other was like, it became more like direct during the course of the day. Like I was consciously feeling everything as energy and feeling that I always knew there were other beings around me. Then all of a sudden guides are introducing themselves by name. And they're saying, this is how you know us because we've been your cosmic mothers in these other parts of the galaxy and other lifetimes. And I'm like, that would make sense why I've had this obsession with space and astronomy into adulthood, because I do deep space astrophotography. I don't know why I did that. I just felt I had this strong urge to learn how to do that.
Super cool. Yeah.
And I was trying to take pictures of home, basically.
Yeah.
And I would feel all this come in, and it moved very rapidly to all of a sudden I'm starting to remember other lifetimes I lived, not just one or two, but numerous, and many of them in like great detail. Mm-hmm. And then remembering being on this planet Earth before in other lives and recognizing why I had never felt very comfortable here.
Wow.
Because of things I'd experienced here before.
Yeah.
And then I would pick up on energies from other people and not know how to name it, and eventually came to realize that I was picking up on their guides around them or their ancestors around them, sometimes a combination. And I would like pick up on their energy in a way that I could somehow interpret it, but not know how I could interpret it. Like I would just know things and then get confirmations later about it. Mm-hmm. So my experience of reality shifted. It was like the non-physical almost became more real than the physical, even though I'm kind of walking in both, because I'm a practically minded person, you know. I've been that way all my life. So it's kind of walking in both worlds, that it felt actually a bit safer that way to my system.
You're so relatable too. I mean, if you were just walking in that other world, it would be harder for people to probably connect with you. But you have a foot in each world, which you're helping bridge the gap for all of us.
Well, I mean, I've been through the stuff that people come to me looking for help for. I've been through it, and I'm not some kind of guru, you know. That's not what I'm looking to be. Yeah. I'm a real person with flaws, but I've been down a path and just trying to help people find their own path. Because everybody has the answers within. We've all heard that. But what does that mean?
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of I reached a point where I didn't feel like the adult guidance in my life was something I could trust, because either I didn't feel like they were working towards my interests, or I didn't feel supported, or I just felt like they were nuts, you know, like the stuff that they were doing this wasn't adding up to like a good result in their lives. Yeah. It wasn't creating happiness for them or others. So I was like, well, where do I go? You know, kind of going within, what does that mean? I mean, that's its own journey to try to figure out what that is. Yeah. Because everybody comes into this experience with a lot of knowledge that you bring into this vessel. And I hope I help people connect with that. Yeah. And kind of bring it to the surface, so then you can integrate it and then use it. Because you're a lot more than just this body and this life. You've done a whole lot of other things. Yes. And you bring that into this experience so that you can have the benefit of it. Yeah. I highly recommend anybody to work with you. I really do. It's so easy to book a session with you, and it's just, there's something very validating, and like you say, it's healing as well. It's really awesome. Tell us how to find you, your website, how to find you, how to book with you, but also some other things that you're doing in the community where
people can find you? I know you teach channeling, and you're doing a manifestation class, I think, tomorrow. So tell us more about how to find you.
Okay, yeah, my website is just www.davidharrisspirituality.com. So everything's there. So I have, like, there's a place to book a session. I have a number of online, like, downloadable offerings that you can kind of do yourself. And I have a YouTube channel podcast where I've channeled messages and, like, light language activations. And I also do some live YouTubes where I'm doing live reads.
Wonderful. So people can follow you on Instagram and actually hear you do the light language and hear you channel. And then
I try to make it easy to find. And I have some kind of things, some channeled processes that people can download, and it's channeled recordings that you do it in a certain. Basically, you treat them like meditations. You take it in. There's a channeled message and a whole energetic thing that's happening that people can do, like, in their own privacy, their own home.
Okay.
One's about kind of embodying your soul purpose. It has to do with bringing aspects of you online that might be dormant, and bringing parts of yourself really to become more fully embodied.
Okay.
So you can basically bridge the aspects of you that you think of as, like, the other side, on the spirit side, and then the human side, to bridge those together within yourself. And I have another offering it's a manifestation activation to create. I think it's really important for everyone to tap into your own power to create.
Yes.
And your power to get outside the limits of what human systems tell you you're supposed to do, that you don't have to do. And you can create the reality that you want in your life. And this is a process it works with reconfiguring your energy field. So it's not so much about vision boarding or coming up with the perfect way to explain it to yourself. And it's definitely not about bypassing your feelings of frustration or anything else. Like, it's just bring it all to the table.
Yeah.
And you can make it all part of the process.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. Manifesting is so interesting, because I feel like we're always manifesting, even when it's not happening for us. It's probably because you're standing in your own way in some way. You're blocking yourself in some way. So I think that's going to be an amazing class or workshop that you're doing.
Blocking yourself, or not understanding that you have that power, and also not understanding that you don't have to create it by yourself. Like, you have help energetically from the non-physical and in the physical, and realizing that you can call that in, and you don't have to do it. You don't have to come up with all the answers.
We're so much more powerful than we think or give ourselves credit for.
Yeah, and we live in a world where there are narratives out there to make people believe that they're limited.
Right.
And you're always being bombarded with something that's trying to hypnotize you or influence you or brainwash you, like with advertising, just how much advertising there is in the world.
Yes.
How many subliminal messages there are out there. And there's, collective patterns of, like, believing, oh, you have to work in this corporate job for this many years, and that's the only way you can have enough security and health insurance and everything to be able to afford to have a family. Those are all systems that we're buying into.
Yes.
That we can break apart those systems to something that's more about supporting our true expression of who we are here to be, and the way that we decide, and still have all of our tangible needs met.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful message. Well, I'm so excited to have had this opportunity to do a podcast with you, and I am so excited to put this out into the world, because there's tons of people I know personally that you can help, and I want them to find you.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yes.
I appreciate that. If you'd like, I can do some channeling.
Sure, we can.
It just takes me a couple breaths to get into it.
Okay.
And then we can go in, and they usually have some kind of message.
Okay.
And a healing, and then can get into any kind of questions you might have.
Okay.
Yakatakaka shibakataka yakataka yakataka shia yabakatapoyakataka yabakatapoyaka yabakataka shibakataka yabakataka yakat shibakataka shibakataka oyakataka yabakatapoyaka shibakataka 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 shibakataka. Well, hello, it's great to be here with you today. We want to explain just a little bit of what's been coming through in that light language here. That light language was doing two main things. One was to release the residue of stress and the fight or flight response, the fear response that any of you listening might be experiencing right now, and to kind of, even if you're in a calm state, to clear the residue of stress from your energy field to make you more receptive to the healing that's coming through in this. And specifically, the healing that we're bringing through here is to help release fear, to help heal the energy of fear. And fear, at its core, comes from a deep-seated belief that you are not loved unconditionally. Because when you really feel that, really feel it in your bones and feel connected to that oneness, that you are loved unconditionally, it's much more difficult for fear to have a grip on you in any situation. And fear can take some insidious forms because in human life, you're so used to the frequency of fear being used to attempt to pull you in one direction or another. Sometimes it can be very subtle fear, like is used in marketing, in advertising. And sometimes it can be a general residual feeling or energy of fear that's behind a structure or a family dynamic or a situation. Because in your world, you are taught to focus on lack very often. You're taught to focus on lack and that you have to always work hard to gain more. And the idea of abundance can be kind of buried a little bit. And fear is the enemy of abundance. And we're going to touch on that a little bit more, but we have a brief group read for those who are listening to this podcast now or in the future, because this is going to be relevant for wherever you happen to be whenever you happen to hear this. You've heard the phrase or known people that smile through the pain, and that might even be you. And sometimes this can be a great coping mechanism. It can keep you from getting dragged really down far into the mud. But sometimes the best thing is to take the mask off and to show how you really feel, both to yourself and to others. Because we guarantee you that there are many others who are having a similar experience of feeling that way, of smiling through the pain. And sometimes there is someone in your life who is ready to help, who might have an answer for you that you need, who might be able to point you to a solution that could truly relieve the pain, that could help you get to the core of the issue and solve the problem. But they need to know how you're truly feeling. most of you listening to this are very empathic. And a world full of empaths is a very, very different place. So we encourage you to be really honest with yourself and key people in your life that you trust about how you feel in your life situation. Not necessarily how you feel about them, though if there's something to be worked out, by all means voice it, but how you feel about your own experience in your life. And to stop playing the game of stuffing things down and putting on a glass smile, a tough face, like you are a Navy SEAL having to go into battle. The time for having to constantly go into a battle and shield yourself across the planet is reaching a pinnacle so that it can then shift in a different direction. And more often than not, people quietly are looking for solutions to their pain that don't involve a big battle with other people, that involve really going within and looking for the truth. So in a sense, pull the shades up from your face to show your true feelings, to let those around you know how you're actually doing, because that gives them permission to do the same. And you might find that your healing process comes much faster and is much simpler when you take the mask off. And we understand that sometimes, private things you're going through are private. They're not the world's business. But what we're talking about is not having to hide where you are, even if you don't want to talk about why that may be the case or how it got to be that way. But just not having to hide, giving yourself permission to fully live in the reality that you're actually living in, and not pretend to be in a different one for the benefit of other people at the expense of yourself, because that can be how you can keep yourself stuck unnecessarily and go through a much more painful healing process than if you take that mask off and let those feelings really rise to the surface. This planet is being flooded with light and healing energy at this time, and opening up the record books on what you have buried can be the most powerful thing you can do in this life. And you have a lot more support to help heal things more solidly and more quickly than you have in many millennia on this planet. Human emotions are very deep and very powerful, and your frequency can shift very, very quickly from one day to the next, from 1 hour to the next. Think of the many different states and forms that water can take. Ice, it can boil into steam, can be really big waves, can have currents, can break apart rocks with the ice, can erode mountains. Can be a warm shower, can be a refreshing cold glass of water. on a hot day, let yourself fully inhabit the state that you're actually in, so that the inside matches the out. And watch as miracles occur in your life as you get more comfortable doing this. And watch the fear that has been in your body, in your nervous system, in some cases, ancestral memories encoded in your DNA of embedded fear, watch it open up and release and dissipate and be replaced with joy. There's no need to wait on that. There's no need to wait and put yourself in a waiting room when you can start that process right now. When you're driving a car at night, are you going to drive with the headlights turned off? No, of course not. You're going to turn the lights on so you can see what you're navigating. When you let those feelings come up to the surface and you quit pretending to be happy when you're not, you are really shining a light on the path that you're already on. And when you shine a light on the path that you're already on, suddenly it's a whole lot easier to navigate. You are We've encoded a lot of information and messages in that bit of light language just now, and the message is going to be specific and different for each of you individually, and it will relate to what you are specifically navigating in your life right now as you're hearing this. Do you have any questions you'd like to ask us?
I don't think so. I think that was absolutely amazing. And for anyone listening, I think that they're going to get exactly what they need from that.
You are all so much more powerful than you understand. You're so much more powerful than the human mind is able to understand. And if you truly knew what it meant to be human within all of creation, you would be amazed. You've picked one of the hardest jobs in existence, to come into human form and to deal with the diverse range of frequencies and experiences that you can have on this planet, where you can run the entire range of emotions all in one place, which isn't possible like this anywhere else. And what that does, the frequencies that you broadcast into existence, helps create other worlds and other dimensions, and has a healing impact that goes far beyond your range of comprehension. So allow yourself to learn how to fully receive in your life. Learn how to fully receive help. Learn how to fully receive abundance. Learn how to fully receive what is freely being offered you, that you don't have to earn, whether it's tangible and physical or energetic. If nothing else, do so just out of curiosity to see what happens when you shift yourself fully into receiving mode. See what happens. Receiving isn't taking. Receiving is accepting gifts that are being given to you unconditionally just because you are you. So find one way today and this week in which you can allow yourself to receive without effort in a way that you have been resisting. It And then watch as a seed that you've planted in your life sprouts very quickly and turns into a unique experience that may show up as an opportunity, a gift, in some cases, a big life shift that is welcome. It could show up as a new friendship or a reunion with a family member that you previously had a tough relationship with that is healed. It could come across as resources that drop into your lap that you weren't expecting that allow you to try something you've always wanted to do. It could take many different forms, but think of receiving like you are a sailboat putting out your sail to receive the wind. That wind is blowing no matter what. When that sailboat is out on the ocean, that wind is still blowing, but that sailboat needs to receive the wind in order to go anywhere, in order to get there more quickly. That's all we're suggesting that you do. Put your sail out and allow yourself to fully receive, just out of curiosity. And that language has continued to work, helping you to resolve fear and opening up resistance and releasing resistance where you have not allowed yourself to receive. We thank you very much, and with that, we are complete.
Thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you.
I really appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Yes. Anyone wanting to work with David, go to www.davidharrisspirituality.com.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on another enriching episode of Soul Wellness with Kristen. We hope the insights shared today have resonated with you, inspiring a deeper connection to your own journey towards holistic well-being. If you enjoyed today's episode, we invite you to subscribe, share, and reach out. Your feedback fuels our mission to bring you meaningful content that educates, empowers, and uplifts. Remember, you are a vital part of this community, and together we're creating a ripple effect of positive change.